Uh, Good morning and welcome to everyone. My name's Brian Bussler. I am part of the Steve and Brian duo, and we've been working on this for quite some time. We are so delighted. One of the challenges as a facilitator is to come on an early Saturday morning and hope and pray and trust that people will show up. So you have made it a great success already. We are really excited about this next section for you. I'm going to invite our students to come forward and sit on the stage, and I'll give you just a little context. First, I trust you have two things in your packet that I'd like you to refer to. Item number one is the student bios. Hopefully you've had an opportunity to read the student bios. We have one student that I believe is on her way, so hopefully, oh, she is here. Terrific. So she'll be joining us in just a moment. The second part is what you're going to be doing with your 3 o'clock partner, and that's completing this purple sheet. And if your purple sheet is like my purple sheet, it's a little heavier paper. That was great divine intervention, that we have a heavier sheet of paper. And here's what we want you to do as participants. We want you to listen. Try to clear your mind of all of the things going on in the world and listen to our young people. The goal of the context that the planning committee used as we selected this activity, we are a campus ministry. We are here to serve the young people on campus. There is no better way for us to reflect on that service than to hear directly from them. We know they're not nervous at all because they are in a room full of people that love and care for them. They are going to tell their story. We have 6 or 7 questions that will probably take till 2 o'clock. We don't have till 2 o'clock, so we're going to short circuit that with a couple of questions. I'm going to ask them a few questions, and then they'll pass the microphone back and forth and respond, and then we're going to save a little time so that if you have a question as a participant for one of our young people or for the panel as a whole, you'll have that opportunity to ask. So one more time, the reminder, you and your clock partner are going to fill out the purple form. You're going to listen deeply to what they're sharing, and we're going to have the privilege of listening to these young folks tell us about their experience. When you guys pass the microphone back and forth, maybe just 30 seconds on your name, where you are in your educational journey and your connection to chapel. And let's start with question number 1 is, describe your experience at the chapel. Andrew, it looks like you're ready.
I guess I'll start. So I'm a graduate student. I'm in my 5th year here in Madison, so I'm talking up here as a graduate student, but also as a TA. My experience here at the chapel is a lot like the experience of a lot of undergrads at the chapel here. I'm here all the time, pretty much every day, and graduate students, just like undergraduates, we're busy all the time, but kind of in different ways. But there's also a lot of different kinds of graduate students. I'm the single full-time student, graduate student, but until not too long ago, there was also the graduate student like Rich, who married, got a family, and is working a job in addition to the schoolwork. So the chapel is, what it does for grad students is similar to undergraduate students. It just provides the opportunities, all these opportunities that we can partake in when we can.
Thank you. We can just pass it in a linear sense, or if the Spirit moves someone and you want to jump up, you're welcome to do that as well.
Have a Spirit? Okay. I'm just going to go then. I'm Marina. I am newly graduated. Last December, I graduated from the UW, so I'm the alumni voice on this panel today. Nice to meet you all. But of course, I had my undergrad here at Chapel for the last 4 years. And again, very common. I came to Chapel and really felt at home here, really felt like I made all my friends here, so that was an easy place to do it. It was funny because my first semester of freshman year, I worked at 6 p.m. on Mondays and 9 p.m. on Wednesdays, which if you're a student, you know, oh, that's triple dollar dinner and that's Vespers. So basically I made no friends at Chapel my first semester. But then I was like, okay, let's change that up. Let's actually meet people here. So don't worry, guys. I changed my work schedule just to fit you guys. But now as an alumni, I'm kind of learning what Chapel means to me in a different way, and I guess we'll probably discuss that more in other questions or something. But being newly not a student anymore, the opportunities or the ways that I interact with Chapel are changing, and it's interesting.
Thank you, Marina. Mint.
Hello. I guess this really straightforward answer. God actually took me here because it was the first day of school here at UW-Madison, and I was hungry and I need to worship. Like I feel like I want to worship, so my plan is like to go home and then worship alone. But then I walk past in front of the chapel and there's a sign that say like there's like food and worship. So it's like perfect. That is a real story, by the way. I didn't fake. And then I mean because like I live, excuse me, I used to live on North Francis, so I usually don't pass here. Yeah, but this semester I live like that side, so I pass here and I never know of this place before until that situation happened and then the sign that answer to my needs. But as well that I came and then I feel that staff member here like are open-minded. The house fellow are really nice. That I don't know. There's like a lot of opportunity for me to do something, for me to serve, and that sounds weird because like, what church don't want you to serve, right? But like, there are like my previous church, yeah. Like I try to like wanna serve, but they keep busy and I end up didn't get to serve, but yeah, so.
Thank you, Mint.
I'm Jason. I'm originally from Appleton, Wisconsin, and I'm a transfer sophomore. This is my third semester of college and also my third college that I've been at. So that's kind of my reason why I'm up here. Don't have any intentions of going anyplace else, so here's where I'll stay. But my experiences at Chapel so far, it's been really my home on campus, a place where I can go for a meal, to worship, to study. I'm here almost every day studying or watching baseball when it's on and stuff like that. I've made most of my friends here that I've met at Madison. And for me, Chapel is really nice because it allows us an opportunity to, even with unchurched friends, to say, hey, like, if you're not doing anything tonight, come for a meal or you can come to study. And by getting them in the door, even if it isn't for worship the first time, it helps to kind of act as a stepping stone for other things.
Hey, I'm Paige. I'm a house fellow here. I'm a sophomore nursing student at Edgewood. So I came in and I was already pretty familiar with Chapel because my sister had gone here and was a house fellow as well. So it started out familiar, but I was still a little bit uncomfortable last year, just not knowing many people and having that distance that I couldn't come every single day. But now I call it home, clearly, but it's just overall, I study here. I want to spend time with friends here. You can really do anything you want at Chapel.
I'm Bradley. I'm a fifth-year senior studying chemical engineering. So I've been around for the last 5 years, seen a lot of things and what Chapel really means to me, my experience. Throughout my time here, I've had the opportunity to take on many leadership roles. I really view this place as a training ground for lay workers that go out and take the skills as students that we learn here into our future congregations. Right now I'm leading a Bible study. I would have never thought in a million years that I had the skills to lead a Bible study. But it's our workers here, just everyone, even the members who empower the students to take on active roles in the congregation, whether it be through the House Fellow program. We've got various volunteer activities, committees that people can serve on, Sunday morning jobs, teaching Sunday school, just all the ways that we can empower students and in those things that the students learn these skills here, learn how to be a leader in their church community, and hopefully take that out with them to their next congregation where they attend once their days of being a student are finished.
Thank you, Bradley. Now, you get to go first now.
Oh, okay.
We'll go back the other direction, or if one of your colleagues raises a hand, pass the microphone to them. Oh, we'll go with two possible, oh, Carol.
Could they put the mic closer to their mouth?
Ah,
Because they're not very loud. So some people have a hard time hearing. I'm fine, I can barely hear someone. And I have a good hearing.
we'll make mic adjustment,
Okay.
plus, here are two questions. I know that you've done some prepping for this, and one of the prep questions was, in a couple of minutes, just share your experience, share something that was super important to you at the chapel. And another, if you go that direction, that's perfect. Another question, how is the chapel preparing you for the real world?
I think going back to what I said about the leadership opportunities that we have at Chapel, that's most definitely preparing me for the real world in terms of having responsibilities, things that I never had as a high school student or a middle school student. I was never given those opportunities to serve, but Chapel really puts the ministry in the hands of students and in the hands of people who are doing it for the first time. So learning about that, I can say just an incredible blessing as to what Chapel does here, that I've had friends who have came to study here, just using it as an evangelism tool that we have, and having this building open about 18 hours a day, 7 days a week, just being a constant evangelism tool, and in Chapel enabling the students to do it and standing behind the students and offering them all the support that they need to go out and take Christ's light to campus.
Thank you, Bradley.
I really like that we can use any volunteer opportunity here, and it really opened my eyes to that's at every congregation. Back home, I would usher for my congregation and things like that, but there really are a lot more opportunities to volunteer and to serve your congregation, and that's something that I'll look for in all of my future churches that I will become member of in the future. I also love that there's just the openness that you can share your faith here constantly. That's something you don't find in a lot of places nowadays. And my goal is to gain the confidence to be able to use those skills in my career and in my adult life that I gain here to spread my faith just at the grocery store or when I'm helping a patient.
Thank you, Paige.
For me, it's helped to prepare me for the real world because it doesn't matter what you've gone through during the day. I've walked past things that were put up by like the campus atheist group and stuff like that. And Chapel helps to serve as a reminder that no matter what you encounter, no matter how often you're able to get to chapel, or really any congregation, your congregation and your fellow Christians are always there to discuss things, and most importantly, your Savior's there to discuss things with, and you're never alone when going through things. After being at MLC for a semester and coming here, for a lot of people, I think it can be a culture shock coming here, but having chapel has really helped to serve as a cornerstone. I kind of think of the parable of the house on the rock versus the house on the sand. It helps to build a firm foundation that even when life is going well, you can come here, but also the times when you're maybe feeling more down, it also serves as a place where you can come and just feel comfortable to talk to anyone.
Thank you, Jason.
I would refer to previous badly answer about like chapel being like the training ground, because I see, like, I admire at Whisper that Pastor Bullet have like the takeaway at the end, which conclude like a summary, the main idea of each sermon, each devotion, and I think it's like really important, like for all of us to like be able to like read Bible and understand, but yet be able to apply those in the real world, in the workplace. And I think that also depends on ourselves, but also the chapel is like a supportive environment that help, do the training ground. So, yeah.
Thank you, man.
How does chapel help me in the real world? Well, I graduated and they made me join the real world, and it sucks. But just kidding. I have a job. Everything's going fine. Don't worry. But really, I would say that obviously in the ways that any church body helps you, it's given me the propensity towards kindness and patience with other people that I'm interacting with just in the workplace, in life. Always trying to find amicable solutions for things and not trying to get the better of people or to show how great I am or set something. It's actually trying to make things better just for the sake of making things better. And also, a friend, a coworker, actually talked about how willing I was at work to do things and put in the effort. And they were saying, I don't know anyone who would bring Play-Doh to work. You're the only person I know who would do something like that, because I actually, I know you have no idea why I brought Play-Doh to work, and you're all very curious. But it's just this willingness to serve and this willingness to put more effort into things and to go out there, because you're taught at chapel how important it is to do that and to show your faith, even if it's by bringing Play-Doh to work. It's about the mentality of what you can do through God. And also, the other thing chapel reminds me of, which I really enjoy, is that the real world, it doesn't matter, haha, but because I have this firm foundation of faith through the church, through this church body, where no matter what's happening or no matter what I'm doing in this real world, what actually is important is coming here, getting strengthened in my faith, being affirmed in my faith in God, and that's the perfect thing to come back to when you're tired at the end of the day.
Yeah, I want to say something similar, I guess. And the first thing that I thought about when I got can you hear me, Carol? Okay. The first thing that I thought about when I saw the real world question was that I think that UW-Madison does a great job preparing us for the real world. and I can't talk about Edgewood necessarily, but UW-Madison does a great job exposing us to the real world, and the chapel for me has always been somewhere I could go to get away from the real world when I needed it. It's kind of been a refuge for that, but it's also been a great balance. Jason, you said you were at MLC for a year. I was at MLC for 4 years, and this is in no way disparaging MLC, but you don't always see the real world at MLC. And I think to Chapel's benefit, you get quite a good mix of the real world and a refuge from the real world when you need it. And we have the opportunity to come when needed or be right outside those doors, getting questioned, getting, some would say, attacked. And when we need it, we can come right back in here and be safe, I guess. But
I'll press the pause button for just a second. I see many of you jotting down notes and ideas. We're also going to open it up. I have one more double question to ask our panel, and then we'll open it up for all of you to ask a question that you might have for our panel. Here's the last double question of the day. How did you hear about the chapel? How did you get involved? And what advice would you have for us as a body of believers to reach out to other students on campus? You can go either direction with that question.
I heard about the chapel I knew nothing about the chapel other than one of my friends was at the seminary in Mequon, and he asked me where I was going to go to church. I said I didn't know, and he was actually a vicar down in Verona, and he recommended the chapel. So I came here on a hot summer day. Judy let me in. Judy gave me a tour. I met Rich and Pastor Limmer, and I'm not sure if Pastor Trapp was here. And I knew right then that I was going to be coming here all the time. So that's how I heard of it, through a friend at the seminary. What was the second part of your question?
Second part, how could we reach out to other campus students?
I thought about this too as a grad student, and reaching out to anybody is hard, and I think reaching out to grad students is harder. As an illustration, I also got elected I'm a representative on the Graduate Studies Committee in my department, and so I hear graduates' concerns, get information to them, but also try to get them to participate in things. And it's very, very difficult to get graduates to participate. I have to send out emails and emails begging people to just answer a survey. And so if there's no pizza or tacos, it's really hard to get grads to do stuff. And I think that's the mentality of most grads, is that they want to do their work, they want to eat, and they want to continue their transition into their professional lives with their young professions, their young families. And I think Chapel in general does a good job of already just being available for grads when we need it. Perhaps one thing that could happen is I'm not even necessarily sure what other grads go here. So maybe if we could have 1 or 2 events a year or a semester for grads, just so we know each other, because inviting grads to do something on a weekly basis is generally a turnoff, because for us to commit to something once a week as a grad student is a huge commitment between correcting papers and reading. Some professors give us like 400 pages to read a week, and that's just in one class. So that's my experience as a grad.
So I got involved, that's the first question, I think. I got involved with the chapel. It's all Judy, of course. We love Judy. She called me up and said, hey, don't forget that you have to come here, and it's not a question about it. And I said, okay, Judy. And thankfully I had people who I already knew were going to chapel. So it was kind of my friends are going, I should go kind of thing, which I think is a very useful tool for just in general. I already go, you can come with me. It's really easy. So I think we should always, if you have a foot in the door already, that's the easiest way to get someone. You learn that in business school or something. I don't know. Wasn't a business major. But so that's how I got involved. It's a very straightforward story. You go to Wells High School, you go to a Wells church when you go to college, which is not, I mean, that's not always the case. So thank goodness that I got reached out to so well, because it felt like a natural transition, which it obviously couldn't. It could have been a different case. So very blessed that I felt welcomed here immediately, and getting involved. The other question was about how, I think I'm just going to ignore what your question was and go with my own thoughts, because I'm trying to give I don't know, we have other students here, and I think you can get their perspective. So I'm going to talk about my graduated perspective instead, which is, I find it's really interesting to go from a student who all of your friends who are also students go to chapel, and all of you are all in the same field, or all in the same life and all in the same stuff, and then suddenly everyone graduates and all of your friends move away, and you're like, oh no, basically is how it was for me. Because I used to know a lot of people at the chapel, and I used to, like, all of my friends used to go here, and I recognize a lot of your faces, but I wouldn't say that I know a lot of people anymore, which, you know, I'm fine with it. I'm not like despairing when I come to chapel and I have to sit alone at church sometimes. I promise I'm not really sad. But I just find it very interesting how it's different now. And I would like to what I'm saying is I have to find new ways to fit into chapel now that I'm graduated as a student, or graduated and working here in the city. And I'm excited to do that, but I think that, and I'm not saying chapel has to have a whole alumni, like cater to all of the alumni in the city, because there's not like a ton of us, but I think that's an interesting new avenue that chapel doesn't have an explicit thing for, connecting alumni, connecting people in the city, young YPs, young professionals like us, and making it happen so that I don't feel like a scared freshman when I come here anymore. Just kidding. Okay.
Young Professionals Life Group, Thursdays at 6:30.
I'll be there.
Okay, so yeah, I told you all about my story, how I come here. Closer. Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, I tell you all about like how I find out about this church, which like before I go to UW for more than a year, but I haven't heard of the chapel. I don't know why. I mean, yeah, and I came from non-denomination background, so yeah. Anyway, about the part of like reaching out to other people, I think we just need to pray. Yeah, like, because it has been a while that like in the back of my mind that God gonna call them, because I mean, I also do like go out and share the gospel sometimes, not that often, but like I even like encounter someone who like didn't know that I'm like a Christian at first, and then I start to bring God up, just like, oh, I'm so thankful because of God. Only say that, and it's like a turn off to the person, and she end up just like, okay, bye. I'm like, we have been talking for an hour, like for hours, and only bring God name up, and then she said bye. And I mean, that was heartbreaking for me. But I guess my point is like, I think it's not up to us anyway. Like, we can do our own part. Like, we can advertise, we can hand out flyer and make known as much as possible. But beyond that, it's also God and them. If they would like to know more about Christ, and if God elected them, so like what we can do is like we try our best, advertise, maybe more make ourselves known to other people, and like live. The important part is like live like Christ like what. That's also the part that I like about here, that you are like nice and sincere of what you're doing. Like when you help, you sincere, and I can tell. Anyway, I'm sorry. Yeah, so that part is the most important because that is what gonna show the world, and they're gonna notice you that you are different, and they're gonna question. That's how I come to know God, actually, that questioning, because my friend is so giving, and then I'm like, why? You know, it doesn't make sense. So yeah, and then pray. Yep.
For me, I had gone to a public high school and everything. So I had mainly heard about campus ministry through the youth rallies that the Wells would hold. I went to one in Tennessee and then one in Colorado. And then also just my home church talking to me about campus ministry. But during my high school time, I had been set on MLC. So 15 months ago, if you would have told me about campus ministry and how I would be going to UW-Madison, I would have maybe believed you, but it wasn't like, it wasn't the intended, it wasn't the path that I had in mind at the time. But I'd say that in terms of getting the word out about campus ministry to high schoolers and college students is to try as much as we can to start early, like in freshman year of college, of high school, and even before that, just instilling in students that that your church life doesn't end when you come to college. The way that I see chapel is that it gives me a place to go where either I can keep busy or I can go where I'm when I'm busy, because when you think about it, we have worship on Sundays, we have triple dollar dinners on Mondays, Vespers on Wednesdays, along with Bible studies, many days of the week. It's a place where if you don't have anything going on, you can do a lot. Otherwise, you can still block out time to come to chapel and just to be in fellowship with others and to keep Christ in your life. And being in the campus ministry at the University of Minnesota as well, I really enjoyed it there. The Bible studies especially were really nice because they would come to the union on campus and we would have a Bible study. But otherwise, the church itself was probably about a 15-minute drive or so, and it would probably take about 45 minutes to an hour if you were to want to walk there. But going through Minneapolis, it's tough to walk places. So they did a good job of coming to you, but chapel is nice because it gives you a place where we're able to go out into the community through activities like Christian Faith in Action and organizations such as that. But it also gives a student the opportunity to come to us, whether they know about us or not. They can come and, like, I walk from Lakeshore to chapel every day, and it's not a bad walk at all. It's maybe about 10 minutes or so. But if someone's walking by and they see a sign for triple dollar dinner or Vespers, maybe they weren't thinking about it before, but it gives a chance to just kind of, like, you talk about planting the seed, and it gives us a chance to hold the seed and just have it, and then the Holy Spirit will take it from there. The Holy Spirit provides the soil, provides the planting expertise, and ultimately makes it grow.
So I had heard about chapel by the time I was in 8th grade because my sister was coming here. But other than that, Judy did reach out to me. I remember getting a phone call beginning of August last year, and she was like, hey, we have these events, you better be there. Because she knew me, I knew the pastor here, like, it was very comfortable for her to call me. Also, there was a group of students that came to my high school. I know they go to a couple different Wells high schools, and I want to say it was senior year in my religion class. They had a little panel of kind of telling you what college is really like, and it was just an open forum. So that was another way that chapel reached out to me. And then being at Edgewood, there's one bus every half hour that comes to chapel. So having a mentor last year was really nice because between Bethany and my mentor, I was always getting a text, hey, pick you up at 8:45, let's go to Vespers, or like, do you want to go to church on Sunday? And it was a no pressure situation, but having that opportunity made me a lot more likely to get involved rather than an hour of travel, because it's a half hour here, half hour back. That's a lot of extra time when it's just a 10-minute drive. And then last year, sometime in the fall, I remember I was here and I talked to Carol and I was like, hey, how can I get involved? Would I be able to work the welcome desk? And volunteering once a week like that really helped me to get to know the staff, know the house fellows, and just interact with a lot more people. That was a really good opportunity. Whenever Kim and I get together, we always just brainstorm ideas. So when I saw the question of what are ways that you can get more people involved, my brain just started spiraling with tons of ideas. But I really think that we did a good job this year with the welcome events at the beginning of the year. The difference of how many students are here last year and this year is crazy. But I think it would be really cool to keep some of those events going throughout the year. Obviously, we can't have an event every day, but it's a really good way. I mean, Mint ended up here because of our sandwich board outside, and that's just clear proof that that those events work and they get people in the door. So I think if we were able to add a couple, throughout the year, that would kind of spread the word more than just in September. I also think that if we get involved in the community, like doing fundraisers, they can also double as an opportunity to advertise. I know some places on State Street like Chipotle and other restaurants will do a fundraiser night, but that's getting our name out on State Street. People don't have to come this way. Other than that, I just think that we're doing a great job, at least what I've seen with Facebook and sharing our events. That is a good way to get random people to just see, oh, Paige is attending that event tonight. I think that if we could carry that over to a Twitter, because I think we actually have a Twitter, I just don't think it gets used very much as church, or an Instagram that's student run to kind of just share with your friends. I think using some of those social media outlets would be great.
So I went to a public high school. So unlike some of the other panelists up here who went to a private high school, I didn't have anyone come to my high school and talk to me about what campus ministry is all about. I was fortunate enough that I went to the same home congregation as the Walschmidts. So Johnny Walschmidt, he graduated here a couple of years ago in the Gindras. So both Zach and Johnny came to chapel beforehand, and they talked about it. I had known that I'd wanted to go to Madison since I was about this tall. So I was well aware of Madison and what it offered, and through those two coming ahead of me, definitely told me about chapel. So I knew about chapel before I came here. As far as reaching out to your public school students, you have to rely on the pastors of their home congregations, because you're not getting names from a guidance counselor's office. So that's really establishing strong connections with the pastors of those home congregations to double back and just make sure that those Lutheran high schools are giving you the same information, just so we don't find any, no one slips through the cracks, so to speak. As far as getting involved here, I had a mentor my freshman year, Gunnar, sitting right in the front here, was inspirational in helping me get involved. Someone who was already involved at chapel, someone who was able to bring me into chapel and show me all the different ways that I could volunteer and serve. And first providing me with that first good friend when I could walk in here on Sunday morning and know somebody, that is incredibly inspirational and empowering for a student who's getting involved. And I think that honestly, that first semester, you can really jumpstart someone's involvement, and you can have them be a very involved student, or if they don't really get that flame or that fire or that passion, then they're maybe not going to be involved for their time here. Before I move on to how do we get more students in the doors, how do we reach out to students, I just this was a conversation that we had at our table last night, but we need to make sure that we take care of the students that are in our building already, in our building on Sundays. Kim told me something that I think was really powerful. She said, a lot of freshmen come here on Sunday, and they like just the fact that someone knows their name, because they're going from a high school classroom where they had their class of students that they graduated with. They're in these 20, 30-person classes. And here they come to college and they go to a calculus or a chemistry lecture, and there's 250 students. And no one really knows their name anymore. So I just like to implore our students, our congregation members, make sure that no one is slipping through the cracks as far as students who come here. Don't let anyone sit alone on a Sunday morning. Make sure that we know their names. And you're looking at a bunch of students up here who are maybe more extroverted and who are more out and open to talk to people. Not all of our students are like that. So look out for the students who are quieter, because they're not going to be the ones that come up to you. They're not going to be the ones to raise their hand and say that I want to volunteer. You need to come and present them with the opportunities. As far as reaching out to more students and getting new students in the building, I think that the word of mouth is an incredible tool. The word of mouth from students who I remember when I was a house fellow here, just to say that I live at a church. You wouldn't believe how many evangelism conversations that can open up. Or the fact that we have free coffee. It's open on Saturdays. My study group came here every Saturday for about 2 years. When you walk in the door, there are Bible verses printed on the wall. Those are ways that are no cost, and it's very easy for students to get involved. And when you hear it personally from a student, it's better than having a pastor hand out mini New Testaments on Library Mall. Not that that's not a good idea, but if it's from a person to a person, it's more personal. And I think that that's the best way that you're going to get more students in the building. In addition to also holding more events on campus, getting out into the unions, holding life groups, holding Bible studies in public places where people walk by you, see what you're doing, ask, and give you the opportunity to share.
Great, great. We are going to move on to a few questions from the audience. So if you have a question, Steve is going to help us. Any question that you would like to pose to our panel?
No? It's on now, okay. What struck me here is, with all due respect, what we've got here is, what we're providing is a place, it's a comfort zone, it strikes me, for students who come from our WELS background. Now, there are a couple of exceptions here. I mean, Mint is an exception. She sought us out. I think Bradley has some very, very good ideas about outreach. But I'm wondering I'd like to ask the rest of the panelists, I mean, do you see a role for us at the chapel in reaching out to students other than the University of Wisconsin WELS students? I mean, Bradley touched on that. But how about the rest of you? Should we be looking at other schools other than the University of Wisconsin? Should we be looking at Edgewood or the Madison Area Technical College? International students, people who live in Eagle Heights. I lived in Eagle Heights at one time. Do you see a role for us in reaching out to other students other than our UW Wells students? And if you do see a role for us in that regard, how should we implement that? I mean, how do we play out that?
I know that Paige will do the Edgewood spiel, but I live in Eagle Heights, and as far as I know, we still have plenty of activity in Eagle Heights, right? As far as ESL, so there's definitely stuff going on. Pastor Limmer did he only did it his last year here, Vacation Bible School in Eagle Heights. I think that was 2 years ago now. I don't know if we did it last year, but that's something worth. Did we do it last year too, or no? Okay, that's something worth doing again in the future as far as Eagle Heights, because I don't think we have the bus that goes out there anymore. We used to have a bus that went and got people from Eagle Heights to come here on Sundays. So we could maybe pursue that again too, because there's plenty of people at Eagle Heights. I was playing piano in the Eagle Heights Community Center a few weeks ago, and I got kicked out nicely by another Bible group that was going in there. So there's all kinds of Bible activities going on up there that's not necessarily us.
So I'll represent Edgewood. So I do think that, like I said, we do have people who are willing, especially Bethany and her husband, to bring the word to chapel, or bring the word about chapel to Edgewood. There's not really a lot of advertising that happens. It's more word of mouth. I know that I have friends who were churched, but then not really, and not Wells, who I've actually had the opportunity to invite to chapel. And one of my friends who had kind of turned away from the church now comes every week with me. And that's just a word of mouth. Hey, I'm going to Vespers. There's snacks afterwards. Want to come? And I think that worked really well. Edgewood is really particular about the different events or organizations that you can advertise about. So putting up something that says chapel actually on it is not really acceptable. Ways that we can get around that, though, are just having a non-advertised Bible study over on campus there. I think that's something that if we can get enough interest in, find a good night to do it, would have people show up to. And if we do it in a common space, that really, like you said, invites other people to just walk by and see what's going on.
The question of should we be doing more things? I mean, I think the answer is yes. I think we all agree. Yes, we should go everywhere. Yes, we should do as much as we can. We should be doing as much as we can at UW. We should be doing as much as we can at Edgewood. We should go into MATC. I don't know if we have stuff there, but it seems like a great place to do things. I mean, we can't spread ourselves so thin that we crack and cry or whatever. But yes, if we have people who are willing to go into new places and new realms and continue our ministry in new ways, and the key is people who are willing, because that's always the thing we need more of, then yes, I think that would be great if we could do more things. And the thing about it is, no matter what the place that we're advertising or going into, everyone is kind of the same, I think, is the biggest thing, like whether you're from UW or they're from Edgewood. I mean, apparently Edgewood has big rules on what you can do or not do there. But at work, so very briefly, the thing I do at work is make surveys and write surveys and distribute surveys. And we have this one survey that it's sent to schools, and parents and students and staff, teachers all take the same kind of survey, but it's different questions based on what you do. And all of the surveys have a like agree or disagree question, and it's, I feel like I belong here. So everyone, no matter where you are in the school, whether you're a 12-year-old 8th grader or whether you're a 35-year-old teacher, everyone wants to feel like they belong somewhere, and it's important no matter where you are in your life. So that's what I'm trying to say is the way we do things, as long as no matter where we are, the methods are going to be similar because we're all human and we all want the same things, and we can give the same word to everyone. So I think that is important to remember.
That's a terrific question with some terrific responses. Other questions from the group?
A lot of you have talked about how you feel like word of mouth through personal relationships is a great tool to get people into the building and to experience chapel and our ministry. From my personal viewpoint, I went through Lutheran grade school and high school, and I felt like there was a great push to go to MLC or be a pastor or teacher. But if you didn't go that route, the teachers just kind of assumed, like, you know, you have years of Christian education behind you, you're going to do fine as a layperson. But they didn't give you tools. They gave you the knowledge, but they didn't give you any reasonable tools to then, you know, I got here and I was like, okay, now how do I make disciples of all nations? Like, you know, how do you go out and do that? Do you feel like chapel is giving you the tools to do that, to share your faith and to witness and help bring other people here? So do you feel like we're doing that currently, or do you think that you would benefit from maybe having some kind of like classes set up or things like that to like help you develop those kind of tools for sharing your faith as a layperson, not just, you know, pulling someone in and having them also volunteer with you here, kind of a thing?
Mint talked on this earlier. She said that when she was having a conversation, she just brought up the word God, that it was just all of a sudden a turnoff. I have a friend, she loves Thanksgiving dinner. She loves turkey and stuffing. And I said, oh, why don't you just you can come have, on one of the Mondays when they have the Thanksgiving dinner, you can come to my church with me and they have it, it's free, you can just have it. She said no. So the whole question of having the tools to go out there and talk about Jesus is really hard, because sometimes just saying God turns people off. And so we've said this a number of times already, but unfortunately, I guess, unfortunately in the sense that we can't just go out and say, I love Jesus, but unfortunately the greatest asset that we have is the building and the services, the free services that we have. I park downstairs a lot, and I give people rides a lot, and just saying that I park at a church gets them in the building and you know, generates some questions and some interest. So other things that have been mentioned too are just, there's a meal here, you want to come, just getting people in the building, you know, those seem to be our greatest tools out there. And to answer your question, the chapel does prepare us in that sense, because those are our greatest tools, and there's plenty of opportunities for that here. That's kind of how I've seen it.
Really quick. I agree that, yes, I think chapel does do a good job generally. And in the interest of confessing my sins to everyone, I think that the failing is on me. I think I could be doing more, like personally, to have more bravery or more strength, because I think that chapel does instill it for me, but I just have to act on what I've been taught, essentially, is what I have to do. So I encourage you all to be as brave as me and say how bad you are at stuff.
That's hard to follow.
Yeah, how can I transition from that to this? Anyway, I would say the best tool is relationship, like more so than the how to. And I'm like an art student, which is like the opposite of engineering, logic, and the instruction like step by step. But I mean, I do that sometimes, you know, be able to survive. But yeah, I think like personal relationship and like if we look at the Bible and look at God, He's not, you know, you have to do this, to love me or like to be my children. But what He wants is like the relationship. So I think it's same as us that like we have relationship as human, we have relationship with God. So the personal relationship part is what I think is the best tool to like call people in and make them question and like let them know who God is. So.
Yeah, I think that Chapel is doing a really good job of being able to share our faith. One example that I know of is whenever I'm at Triple Dollar Dinner or Vespers or wherever, when events are advertised or services are advertised, it's always, there's always the reminder to bring a friend. And even just saying that, whether it's someone listening who is a regular goer to the chapel or just someone who's stopping in for the first time, it helps to instill in them that they are welcome here and that they can have a place where they belong. And yeah, and Bradley and I, with our Bible study, we do it in Dejob, which is one of the residence halls here, and we had a person come by one day and ask us if we were in crew, which then gave us an opportunity to tell them a little bit about who we are and what we do. And just having events out in the community help to spread the word, even if it isn't directly like handing out Bibles or whatnot. It helps to build relationships and get people in the door.
So I think that we do a good job of getting people in the door. Saying I have this beautiful place that you can study where there's free coffee and snacks is the best way to get a student to go anywhere. In terms of preparing us for those conversations of spreading our faith, I think that the more you're in the Word, the more you're likely to use the Word. So getting more people involved in Bible studies or those kinds of things, really, I mean, I'm in one this year, and it's come whenever you can. It's no pressure, which I think is really important for students because life gets in the way sometimes. But having that place to go where you can strengthen your faith, if I feel strong in my faith, I'm more likely to share it. So I think that the more Bible studies that we can interest people in are really important.
I guess my opinion is maybe a little bit different than some of our other panel members here. I think that we as Chapel are not doing a good job preparing our students for those conversations. I don't think that there's a lot of spiritual growth that we have in terms of defending our faith. I remember it was my freshman year, Neil led, with some other people, but a Tackling Tough Talks, where we talked about how do we defend our faith on campus. We had over 50 students come to that on a Wednesday night before Vespers. That was a whole night that was solely focused on how do you respond to attacks of your faith. We haven't really had anything like that since then. As far as our life groups, I completely agree that being in the Word more, gives you the skills to prepare to defend the faith. But in terms of any of our meetings, I would have to look at the numbers, but I would tend to bet that right now we don't have as many life groups as we did a couple years ago. Our life group attendance from students is down from what it was. And the more that you can just get students to talk together, students to unify together, to talk about what they're going through, experiences and challenges they faced, and to have a special event like a Tackling Tough Talks or something else where you'd bring in a guest speaker. I think something where it's directly pointed at defending your faith. We saw apologetics was one of the top sticker items that we put on when we voted. So I think that's really important, and there's a lot of growth opportunities in that for us as a congregation.
Okay, I'm going to do one last question.
What does the transition look like from offering food and offering coffee and getting people in the building and saying we have this great facility to anything beyond that?
So I think that that's a challenge that we will always face here as a congregation. I can't tell you how many times I've been downstairs in the study room on Sunday morning, and there's the speakers that go around the building, and we will have the speakers turned on for the 11 o'clock service, and as soon as one student hears the church service, they walk right over there and turn the volume all the way off. So it's how do you get students from in the door to in the sanctuary? And I think that a lot of it comes with the focus of that we're not offering food, but we're not offering physical food, but spiritual food. And we should try to not make the advertising point of our events free food, free coffee, free Wi-Fi, free printing. Those are all good things to talk about. But if we advertise those as the sole purpose, then the people coming in the door are going to view that as the sole purpose. Where if we advertise that we are here as a church and we want you here on Sunday mornings, Wednesday nights, oh, and by the way, we have free food. Now we've switched that and we've said our primary mission is to feed you spiritually. Oh, and we'll also take care of your physical needs as well.
This gonna kind of be respond to you actually. It's okay. But I mean, I just think that is true. I agree with you. But sometimes in everything you need to find the right balance. And the reason I say that because I mean. I encounter situation where Christian use like worldly thing to call people, which is the wrong motive. But I'm not saying here. I didn't say that here. I mean somewhere else. But recently I'm dealing with international students. So recently I make friends with international students that just came to chapel, and they are not Christian, but they came for that purpose, like because of the free study space, free coffee, something like that. But I still think that could still be useful, like because this is like early stage, I guess, and then eventually can be, because what I'm doing right now is develop that friendship, and after that you can, and I actually start to tell them a little bit about God, like I asked them like, do you want to know what is the story of that painting down there by fireplace that Jesus holding the black sheep? I asked that question, and then she said, yeah. And then that is the opportunity. So I was happy. But so I would say find the right balance. I think that is okay. But not like use coffee or use something free to call them. You need to find the right motive. Like you have the right motive, I guess, would be like, oh, we have this stuff, like because we want you to be filled, like we want you to not go hungry, and God loved that. So it's depend on the motive and the right spot. So.
I agree with that. I think that getting people in the door is one step, and then I think getting to know their name, getting to know their story is the next step that we kind of need to take, because if they're just here to study, they're just going to keep their head down. But if they have even the slightest inkling of, what's this place really about other than just the free things, they're going to, look for that friend, look for that person who they can be like, oh, hi, share a friendly smile with every time they come in, and that leads us to the opportunities of inviting them to more of the fellowship type of events.
Just real quick, to answer your question, what is the transition from out there or the coffee to in here? That's always the question. And we can't make people go to church, but we can, get them in the building. And to kind of disagree with Bradley, but not necessarily, I just think that people aren't stupid. So if you're inviting them to come into a church for coffee and come to a church for food, we're offering them earthly things, right? But they're not dumb. They know that we want them to come in here eventually. So I'm not sure if gearing everything towards come in for spiritual food is the right idea. I think it's come in for real food, but you're coming into a church, so get it, Like people aren't dumb, especially at this school, and I think the reason people are so when we're evangelizing out on State Street, the people that are evangelizing out on State Street saying, Jesus, 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 fire and brimstone if you don't believe in Jesus, people are turned off by that because they're taken for dummies. And when they come into here for the free coffee and stuff, they're not dumb.
That was a great transition question. I'm going to offer a few appreciations before we get to the point where you do a little work with your 3 o'clock partner. First, what an incredible group of lay leaders. They are inspiring young people that have a zest and a zeal for making things happen in our church, and we know they're going to be strong lay leaders if and when they leave the greater Madison area. So our appreciation to you for the message today. I'd also like to offer an appreciation and have you join me in that for Forrest and Morgan. Forrest, would you please stand? Forrest and Morgan were the brains behind recruiting this great group of young people. So thank you for delivering. As I mentioned at the beginning of this activity, this is really the hallmark activity for our event, because to the extent that we can look through the eyes of young people, learn from their experiences, and try to apply that into the future, that's going to strengthen our ministry on campus. This really concludes, as soon as I give you an instruction with your clock partner, this will conclude the present portion of our past, present, future focus. When we return back to the fellowship hall, we are going to be building and focusing on the future. This is really the last present piece, and you have one more assignment before recess today. Recess is the same as break. Your assignment before break, spend a few moments with your clock partner, reviewing what you heard, documenting it on your purple sheet, and I'm going to check the time quick. We will see you back at your table at 10:35. So if you finish with